Hey everybody, welcome back to my coverage of the PogChamps 3 tournament. This is the Daniel Negreanu versus xQc match, the Battle of the Canadians. If you missed the first game, you can check it out in the info card up there. Come back and watch this video. xQc did take the first game. Daniel needs to win this game to take the match to an Armageddon, so can he do it? He is the rating favorite, but in my opinion, xQc is a little underrated here. So this game and this match could go either way at this point. xQc does have the white pieces, and he starts off with e4. We have c5 from Daniel, just going for that Sicilian defense, and d4 from xQc, the Smith-Morrill gambit. xQc has said that he's not really paying attention to openings in this tournament, and he's kind of just winging it. And so I don't think xQc knows what he's doing here, but we'll see if it works. We have c takes d4 from Daniel, and now queen takes d4 from xQc. And this is not really how you want to be playing the Smith-Morrill gambit. c3 is definitely the correct move here if you want to play the Smith-Morrill gambit. But like I've explained, xQc is not really paying attention to openings. He's just kind of playing moves to get to the middle game. So he plays queen takes d4, which is not the most accurate because now black can bring this knight to c6 and gain a tempo on the queen, basically win a tempo for free, which Daniel does with knight c6. We have queen e3 from xQc, and now e6 from Daniel. Knight c3 and a6 sort of going into a Sicilian Khan type setup. We have seen Daniel take on a sort of Najdorf setup with his pieces as black, no matter what white plays, so kind of playing it as a system. So we'll see if Daniel will go for something like that. We have knight f3 from xQc, and now d6 from Daniel. Bishop c4 and b5 from Daniel, now gaining a tempo on this bishop. xQc saves it with bishop d3. This kind of highlights why this bishop c4 move is not very good in the Sicilian. You could have actually dropped it to b3 here, but you may have gotten problems with a5 and b4 later. Overall, the bishop just would have been better on e2 in the first place instead of this bishop c4 move. But we have bishop d3 from xQc and knight f6 from Daniel. We have castles and bishop b7. So now Daniel's pieces and pawns are sort of in this Najdorf-like setup, except this knight is on c6 instead of d7. But it's on c6 for a perfectly fine reason, because it was gaining that tempo on that queen earlier. So, yes, and xQc just continuing to develop, both players doing very fine so far. So let's see how the game continued. We have rook d1 from xQc, getting his rook on that half-open file, and we have rook c8 from Daniel doing the same. b3 from xQc, looking to fianchetto this bishop because this queen is on e3 now, sort of blocking the bishop. So xQc is looking to develop it on the long diagonal. We have bishop e7 from Daniel, just developing his last minor piece and looking to castle, and now e5 from xQc. And here black can kind of untangle with this d takes e5 move. You are lining yourself up for discoveries with this rook, so here white can play bishop takes b5, but after queen c7, bishop takes c6, queen takes c6, and bishop b2 now defending this knight. Black has sort of untangled here and opened up the position, I think this is a very fine position, a very pleasant position for black to be able to play. You may lose this pawn later on, but I think opening things up on the queen side is worth being the pawn down here, as often happens in the Sicilian for black. Sometimes black sacrifices material or even the exchange just to try to open things up on the queen side. But we do not have this d takes e5 move from Daniel. Instead, we have an equally good move. This is actually equally good, arguably even better than this d takes e5 move, which is knight g4. And this is a fork on the queen and the pawn. So Daniel will be winning a pawn here. We have queen e2 and knight g takes e5. Daniel now picking up that pawn. And xQc does trade off this knight in the center. So, this trade is fine. I think xQc wants to try to open things up in the center while black's king is in the center. But I don't know how effective it will be. Black can castle pretty much immediately. This e file will still be closed. But maybe xQc wants to try to open the d file and get some tempo on black's queen here, sitting on d8 with the rook. I don't know what xQc was thinking, but we have knight takes e5 and now knight takes e5. And this is also a discovered attack on this c3 knight, so will xQc see it or do anything about it? No, he does not. He plays bishop f4, but this actually does sort of protect the knight in the way because it is counterattacking. So now if black takes this knight, we will have bishop takes e5, and you can't actually take this bishop back because there will be bishop takes b5 check. So just to show that on the board, if rook takes c3, for example, we could have bishop takes e5, and if black takes with d takes e5, we could have bishop b5 check, and white will win black's queen. So will Daniel go for this? Will we have this line on board, or will Daniel play a move like knight takes d3, first saving his knight? However, with a move like knight takes d3, white can now play queen takes d3, and this defends the knight. So, you know, either way, you can't really win material here as black. Actually, after this queen takes d3 move, black does have this bishop f6 move, and now you cannot defend the knight again. You could play this bishop d2 move, but now after queen c7, now you cannot defend the knight again. So you will either lose this knight, or if you move the knight, you will lose the rook in the corner. So black can actually win material here, but he has to play knight takes d3 first. So will Daniel go for this knight takes d3 or the more obvious rook takes c3? He does go for rook takes c3, and you really can't fault Daniel for going for this move. It's just very obvious. But now the question is, will xQc see that he can take this and have this bishop b5 tactic? Well, we do see this trade on e5, bishop takes e5, and Daniel does take back, which is the most natural thing to do, d takes e5. However, now this gives xQc the opportunity to get this bishop takes b5 check. So will he go for it? Yes, he does. He goes for bishop takes b5 check, and this does allow Daniel to take the bishop with a takes b5, but now he loses the queen. Rook takes d8 check. However, it's not the end of the world, because after bishop takes d8, Daniel now does have a rook and two bishops for the queen. So it's not the end of the world yet. We have queen takes b5 check from xQc, and here you have to see that, well, you see this is a fork on the king and the bishop, so you can't simply move the king. You have to play bishop c6, and the rook defends the bishop from behind. So will Daniel see this, or will he move the king? He plays king e7, so he moves the king. Here he looked for a while, and he noticed it was a fork on the king and the bishop, but I don't think he noticed if he moved the bishop to c6 that it would have been defended by the rook. So he does lose this bishop here, and xQc picks it up with queen takes b7. Now this position is very winning for white. White is up a queen for a rook and a bishop, and black has no king safety. So this will be a very winning position for white. We have king f6 now, and rook c1 defending white's c-pawn. Black could have some back rank swindle somehow later, because white does have this back rank weakness. So Daniel should definitely continue playing on here, and who knows, xQc might even hang the queen or hang a rook or something crazy. We have bishop e7 from Daniel, developing that last piece, looking to get that last rook into the game, and h3 from xQc, getting rid of that back rank weakness. We have bishop a3 now, kicking the rook away and looking to grab this c2 pawn. Rook h to c8 was probably the better try here, but just getting that last piece into the game. But we have bishop a3 instead. We have rook d1, and now Daniel picking up that pawn with rook takes c2. And the reason why this bishop a3 move was not the best is because you're kind of forcing white's rook to get into the game, and now the rook can come to d7, which xQc does, but I mean, on the other hand, you're just totally losing here as black, so it's kind of hard to do anything. You know, every move you play will be wrong in a way. We have rook f8 from Daniel, definitely the best move here, defending this f7 pawn, which was attacked twice. We have queen f3 check now, and now this is going to lead to a fork after king g6, and now xQc has queen d3 or queen e4 check, which would be a fork on the king and the rook. So we do have this queen e4 check. xQc does see the fork, and after king f6 and queen takes c2, it's all over for black. We have bishop b4 and g4 now from white, just looking to attack black's king. King g5 and queen takes h7. G6 now, and rook takes f7. Daniel goes for this rook trade. There's not really much you can do here, as Daniel, except hope for some stalemate. So we have rook takes f7 and queen takes f7, bishop c5 now, and queen takes e6, king f4, queen f7 check, king e4, queen takes g6, white just cleaning up the last of black's pieces, king f3, queen f5 check, king e2, queen takes e5 check, king d2, and now not even taking this bishop, but simply queen d5 check, and here Daniel resigned. I mean, even if Daniel got a stalemate, he still would have lost the match, so it doesn't matter too much here. But yes, Daniel resigns. xQc wins the match 2-0, a bit of a rating upset, and but not too surprising overall. xQc is an experienced chess player. He's been playing for, I think, a year now. So, yeah, xQc takes the match. I don't think I have anything else to say about this match. So check out my PogChamps 3 playlist. It's up there. And check out another chess video over there for all things chess. Make sure you're subscribed and like the video, please, if you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Stay awesome, and I'll see you next time.